Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you all for joining us, and thank you as well for your patience as we work through a couple of technical challenges this afternoon. I would like to introduce first the individuals here who are part of the 15th Avenue BIA bill signing. And so that includes, of course, Mayor Durkan, who will kick us off with some opening remarks. She will then hand it over to Director Pamela Banks from the Office of Economic Development, and Danielle Hulton, who is here and speaking on behalf of Ada's Technical Books on the 15th Avenue BIA. Mayor will sign the bill. We will then transition over to the Religious Properties Bill after that portion is complete. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Mayor Durkan.
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you everybody for being here. We will be doing two bill signings today, as Anthony said, and the first one we'll begin is with the 15th Avenue East BIA signing, and then we'll move to the Religious Properties signing. And I'm so excited to be signing this 15th Avenue East BIA legislation. These past 19 months have been such a challenging period of time for our city. There's been no family, no individual, no small business that hasn't been impacted. And what we've seen is we've gotten through best when we come together and have collaborative efforts and innovative thinking. And one of the ways we come together for small businesses is through the BIAs. And today we know that the 15th Avenue Merchants Association came together to support this legislation. I want to thank them for their work. This really will serve as a catalyst for the district's economic recovery efforts with a partnership with City of Seattle and the Office of Economic Development. And you'll be hearing from Pamela Banks, the head of the Office of Economic Development. This was one of our focuses during 2021 in our Clean City initiatives in this area. And we really appreciate that looking forward into 2022, working with the 15th Avenue BIA alongside with the Capitol Hill Business Alliance, GSBA, and the Broadway BIA, that we can really do a strong, equitable recovery for Capitol Hill, and look at each one of those commercial areas and business areas and the small businesses located there, but also for the vitality of Capitol Hill as a whole. And so I'm really excited. I want to thank OED and all the small businesses that came together to do this work, as well as the folks in those other BIAs in and around Capitol Hill who really banded together, because we know that small businesses binding together makes them stronger. And our small businesses truly are the economic backbone of our city. Before the pandemic, there was about 250,000 jobs provided by small businesses, the equivalent of almost 5 Amazons. But they were also the hardest hit during this pandemic. And I don't know a small business owner that when the pandemic hit that didn't have to dip into their savings or paid their employees even when they were closed, or had to do really innovative things just to pay their own bills. And so we know that BIAs working together truly can make a difference in our city. So I'm really excited to sign this bill, and I'll do that right now and then turn it over to Pamela. So it's been signed and now put in one of the official looking envelopes that is the law. Congratulations to the BIA. And now I'll turn it over to Pamela Banks.
Thank you, Mayor Durkan, for inviting me here today and for signing this legislation. We all know the negative impacts that this past 19 months have caused for our small business communities. Economic recovery for our small businesses, neighborhoods, workers, and communities at large is one of Office of Economic Development's top priorities. We are continuing to expand our small business stabilization funds and to support local business districts. These improvement areas are an additional help to businesses and communities across the city and are intended to provide much needed support, especially as we are on the road to economic recovery. 15th Avenue East and the Capitol Hill neighborhood will benefit greatly from the funding and formation of this highly anticipated BIA. We are on the path to equitable recovery, and I'm happy to be here today to support this newest BIA, and really thank you, Mayor Durkan, for signing this legislation again. I want to thank our partners and business advocates for helping us, and I'm going to now turn it over to Danielle from Ada's Technical Books.
Hi, thanks so much. I'm Danielle Hulton. I'm with Ada's Technical Books and Cafe up on 15th, and I'm also a member of the 15th Avenue Merchants Association. And we are just so excited to see the result of these multiple years of work, and also specifically over the last year and our future recovery of 15th. We're excited to be joining the other BIAs in the city. And we just want to thank everybody for their support, the city, Mayor Durkan for signing this, and we just are looking forward to the future and where we're going as a district. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director Banks. We'll now take a brief moment here. You'll allow me to move some folks into the audience and bring some folks up here to the presenters group, and we will get started as soon as that's done. Okay, thank you all once again for your patience. And for the second portion of today's press conference, we're going to hear again from Mayor Durkan at the top. She will then sign the Religious Properties Bill. And after she does that, I encourage you all to put your WebEx platform on grid view so you can see everyone at clap and celebrate and be happy for a few moments. And then Mayor will then hand it off to Director Quirindongo, who will then hand it off to Donald King to speak on behalf of the community for this bill. And with that, I will turn it over to Mayor Durkan.
Thanks so much, Anthony, and thanks to everybody who's here today. This is really an exciting moment for me and for our city, and we're taking another step towards really building equity and acknowledging how our systemic racism of the past has really had a deep impact on our communities of color, particularly the Black community in Seattle. For too long in our city's history, discriminatory housing and land use policies, coupled with lack of affordability, have really led to huge displacement and gentrification in our neighborhoods. When I was growing up in Seattle, the Central District was about 75% Black, and today it's less than 14%. That huge migration of people has had such an impact on our city. And as we continue to see displacement, we need to have strategies to support the churches, businesses, and people from the Black and other BIPOC communities so that they know that they have a place in Seattle. Our faith-based communities have been on the front line fighting to provide access and opportunity for their congregations, their neighborhoods, and their communities. They've been important partners in our work to address the needs of our unhoused neighbors, as well as the fights against systemic racism. From providing shelter space to developing affordable housing, our faith partners really have been there each step of the way and stepped up every time. In truth, it's often the city that is following their lead, which is exactly how it should be. We know that the best solutions for community are found in community itself. And when we listen to the voice of community, and today, the faith members of community, we can make each community stronger and better. In addition to being a partner in service, our faith-based institutions are really important cultural anchors for our communities. Many of their congregants have had to move out of Seattle as prices have risen and come back. And so having housing in and around those places of faith is critical, not just to the fellowship for those churches, but for really building the community and preserving that cultural connection. While the city has continued to make deep investments in our low-income housing through the housing levy, the MHA, and a range of resources, we also know we needed to find every available tool that we had. The Office of Housing, and I really want to thank Emily Alvarado and her team for the work that they've done, and our Office of Planning and Community Development, you'll hear from the director, work closely with our faith-based partners to help realize their visions for providing affordable housing on their underutilized properties. This bill will help root our faith communities in place by giving them a tool to maintain ownership of their property, and will prevent displacement of our faith communities and community members by providing more housing in those places where people have been coming for generations. I want to recognize the faith community leaders here today who have advocated so fiercely for this policy. First in Olympia to get the legislation passed, and then consistently over the past year as the first bill was passed, and then this more improved one was also passed to give faith-based communities more flexibility to build the housing that they think they need for their communities and their congregations. You demonstrated your deep commitment to your mission and to your city. And I can't wait to see how each of the congregations utilizes this new law to build more affordable housing and more places for people to stay and be in Seattle. I also want to thank Councilmember Strauss for his commitment to this issue. He recognized the critical need for faith communities to have the right of self-determination and more flexibility, and the ability to provide housing for a broad spectrum of people. Without his support and his leadership, I'm not sure we would have gotten to this refined bill. And it's both the Office of Housing and Office of Planning Development teams that have really been helping make sure that we could pave this way. You've shown what it means for us each step of the way to listen to community and to do what we need to make ourselves not just a more affordable city, but truly live out our commitment to being a diverse city committed to racial equity. Now I will sign the legislation and it will become law, and then I'll turn it over to the director of OPCD, Rico, Quirindongo, who will say some words. All right, it is officially the law and in a portfolio to be the law of the city of Seattle. Congratulations to all who worked so hard to make this a reality. And thank you for your work for making Seattle a better place. Rico, it's yours.
Thank you, Mayor Durkan. Thank you to the Nehemiah Initiative and other community religious leaders for advocating for the state law that led to this local ordinance. Without your leadership, we wouldn't have even started this work, much less reached the finish line. Thank you to Office of Housing for the collaboration with churches on developing the proposal to implement the state law here in Seattle. This ordinance will aid churches, synagogues, and mosques across the city to develop affordable housing to meet the needs of their communities. The ordinance allows for the construction of additional income-restricted homes on all properties controlled by religious institutions. This is another of our anti-displacement strategies to support BIPOC communities, both BIPOC churches and BIPOC families and individuals who continue to face displacement pressures. I'm going to turn over the mic to Donald King in a moment, who leads the Nehemiah Initiative. But first, let me say a couple more words. The Nehemiah Initiative seeks to empower the African American community in the Seattle region and beyond to support the retention of historically backed initiatives by advocating for development of real property assets owned by historically Black institutions. This is a lifelong work for Donald. I know this because this is a mission that he and I worked on together for years in partnership as he mentored me as a young architect in built environment and social justice work back in the day. In addition to being the CEO for the Nehemiah Initiative, Donald King, FAIA, NOMA, is an architect with over 50 years of professional experience in the practice areas of planning, design, and project management. He has specialized experience in the design of community buildings, healthcare facilities, and multifamily housing. He's well known and respected nationally in our community of architects and built environment professionals. He's a local social justice leader and seeks to do right by community through the lens of built environment work. He's also a dear friend. Donald, I turn the mic over to you.
Well, wow. Thank you, Rico. I didn't expect all that, but thank you so much. And again, I'll tell you how proud I am of you and your position with the city now. I know you'll continue to do great things. On behalf of the Nehemiah Initiative Seattle, Mayor Durkan, I want to thank you for reintroducing this bill, introducing the much improved version of it. And also much thanks goes to Councilmember Dan Strauss in introducing it to council, and not just the introduction, but the support behind the scenes to make sure other council members truly understood the heroic and historic nature of this legislation. As this passes into ordinance, this is going to be of great support for all of our churches. Thank you to the Church Council of Greater Seattle, Michael Ramos, who's actually helped shepherd this through as well, and other supporters of the Nehemiah Initiative to support not only churches to survive and do well in what they do in Seattle, but specifically the Black churches that have struggled with the threat of displacement, not only of the congregation, but of churches itself. Many of you know we have lost nearly a dozen churches over the past 10 years due to gentrification. This legislation, this ordinance will actually help us survive, help our churches survive, do well while they continue to do good. I thank you all for your support and your help on this. OPCD, Office of Housing, directors and staff, let's get this done.
Thank you, Donald. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Director Quirindongo. I would now like to briefly open the floor for any Q&A from our media who have joined us today. We have time for a few questions. Would be easiest to use the hand raise feature if you do have a question. Okay, seeing none, I would like to invite the mayor to deliver some closing remarks as we close out today's press conference.
Well, I just want to thank everyone again, particularly Don and the Nehemiah Institute, but all of the faith leaders who came together to first get the bill passed in Olympia, to get the first ordinance passed, and then to be really principled and come to us to say, it didn't do enough. We need more self-determination and latitude to get what we need to do for our communities. You know, our places of faith have been an important place for people to be in the last 19 months. And we've seen in the history of Seattle how key they are, particularly our Black churches through the various generations. And so very proud to be able to be part of this today. And I can say there's very few things that we've done since I've been mayor of the city of Seattle where there's not even a question. And that means everyone understands this is a really positive thing. So thank you everybody for the work you've done. And now the next phase of the work begins, and I can hardly wait to see how it happens. So take care, everybody, and thank you for all your hard work.
And thank you everyone for joining us today. That concludes today's presentation.